Welcome back to our stage here at the Spanish Pavilion. We're very pleased to continue with our program. Our next segment, the first in our roster of institutional presentations, is organized by ESNA, the Europe Startup Nations Alliance. In order to introduce the session, please welcome Salvador Esteban, Director General for Digitalization and Artificial Intelligence. Welcome, Salvador. The stage is yours.
Thank you very much. Hola, entrepreneurs, startups, scale-ups. It's truly an honor to stand before you today alongside ESNA in Barcelona, the Mobile World Congress. The Mobile must continue being a gathering that embodies the spirit of collaboration and innovation in the field of entrepreneurship. I extend my warmest greetings to each one of you, and especially, obviously, to Linda, to ESNA. Your standards, identifying 8 best practices for public policy in the startup ecosystem, were essential in shaping our current landscape, and we are confident that they have also benefited other countries. Thank you for your valuable contribution. Let me begin by recognizing the fundamental role that entrepreneurship plays as a driven force in our economy. It is a catalyst for economic growth, a source of innovation, and a key contributor to job creation and enhancing our competitiveness. Tomorrow's goods and services will be invented by startups, as we all know. We must support them now to lead the way in these still unknown sectors and industries. Today in Barcelona, we proudly affirm Spain's unwavering commitment to boosting entrepreneurship. We recognize it as a vital cornerstone in our economic development and welfare. Recent initiatives and policies underscored our dedication to providing a positive environment for entrepreneurs to thrive. Just one example, the Spanish single window, the ONE. It's been launched during this Mobile World Congress, and this initiative aims to collect all the necessary information related to startups and scale-ups, reducing information costs. However, we understand that we cannot advance by our own. We must stand with EU to success. That's why we brought to Brussels the Declaration of Intent in Startups and Scale-Ups, presenting a comprehensive set of measures to foster growth. 20 European countries have already adhered to this declaration, signaling a collective commitment to support the ecosystem. At the heart of the European Union, ESNA stands as a crucial point on the European entrepreneurship journey. The results outlined in this 2023 ESNA report reflect Spain's strong commitment to foster startups and scale-ups. And we are happy to announce that we have ranked first in the ranking shown in this ESNA's report. We all must be proud of this result. Being the best country in terms of entrepreneurship is not just a recognition, but also a clear sign that we are on the good way. But we cannot stop here. As we look to the future, Spain is committed to long-term success of entrepreneurship. In closing, I would like to thank ESNA. Let us continue working hand in hand, fostering an environment where startups flourish. All together, we can shape a future where entrepreneurship knows no bounds. And now, please welcome Linda Corpusa, CEO of ESNA. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the introduction. And before I start with the presentation, I want to say special thank you to the Spanish government who invited us to be here today and have this exclusive preview of the Startup Nation Standards Report. So what we are going to present today is something that's not been shown to a public space at all until now, so you're going to get the first glimpse of the results of 2023. Before I get to the exciting part of the results, I want to give you a bit of context as well of what is ESNA and why this report matters and what are those 8 standards that we are monitoring. So, to go back to 2020, there was a quote from Ursula von der Leyen saying, "Do we want Europe to be a global player or a playground for others?" So this is as relevant today as it was back in 2020. And out of this raises the challenge. So how can we increase the competitiveness of the European startup ecosystem and truly participate into the global ecosystem? With the challenge, there was a political declaration that was signed at the time by 27 European countries. The declaration itself includes 8 standards that are the ones that need to be improved in Europe to ensure that we can be in the forefront of the global startup ecosystem. And this declaration, in a way, was unique as it became from aspiration to really operations. As through this declaration, not only 8 standards were defined, but also ESNA was created. And looking at ESNA, so what are we doing? What's our main objective? So our vision is, as I mentioned, to bring Europe to the lead of startup global ecosystem. And we are doing that by improving the national policy frameworks, by continuously identifying and also developing best practices that can in turn be deployed into policies. And last but not least, bringing together comparable, harmonized data into one single digital platform. In regards of our work, we are set in 4 separate action areas, and the first one is the Startup Nation Standards and Policy. And this is also one of the reasons why we are here and the backbone of ESNA. So with this action area, we are monitoring the 8 standards and also providing technical support to the countries so they can learn from one another and we can raise the level of Europe in total. The next one is Insights and Analytics. So here we are bringing together comparable data that is harmonized and also building thought leadership pieces through the aggregated data that is available to us. Next, we have network and strategic initiatives, and this is all about best practice sharing between countries and ensuring that we not only gather them in one place, but make sure that there is active benchmarking opportunities for countries to again learn from one another. And last but not least, it's the marketing and communication. So here it's all about engagement and positioning, and also to ensure that the startup ecosystem or startup initiatives are on top of the policymaker agenda, both nationally and in Brussels. And now we are getting more closer to the interesting part. So 8 standards, these are the 8 standards that are part of the declaration. These are the ones that we are monitoring and that we are now reporting on, and we'll be continuously doing that on the upcoming years. I will briefly mention all of them so you know also what's under each of the standards. So standard number 1, we are measuring there, can you create, or how fast can you create a new entity, how much it's gonna cost you, and if there is a service line that will help you through the process. Standard number 2 is attracting and retaining talent. So all the activities, initiatives that are in place to attract talent from outside the EU, and also initiatives to bring back national talent that has left the EU, but we would like to see them back in European Union. Next is stock options. So here we are looking at can you issue a non-voting stocks, and are they only taxable at the sale rather than when you are acquiring them. Standard number 4, innovation and regulation. So there's various aspects that we are looking at here, but the one to mention is definitely the regulatory sandboxes. Innovation in procurement. How actively are the authorities inviting or actively participating, making sure startups are part of the public procurement initiatives? Access to finance, which is standard number 6. Here we are measuring direct and indirect access to finance for startups and throughout their scaling process. So not only at the beginning, but throughout them scaling through the Europe. Standard number 7 is social inclusion, and here we measure all the aspects in diversity and promoting the social inclusion within the startup ecosystem. And standard number 8, and this is also the standard that brings it all together. It's digital first, and with this standard we are measuring if startups are able to communicate with authorities digitally. So are they able to do all the communication that they need to in an online manner, thus making it faster and making it easier to scale across Europe. We're almost getting to the results, but before I get there, so the main objective for this report, apart from improving on the methodology and ensuring we can continuously report on it, it's also to provide an overall picture of startup ecosystem in Europe. So what's the current status, where are we good, and where we need to additionally improve. And one important thing to mention here, this is not a report that is intended to rank the countries. We want to share the best practices and again raise the level in Europe in total. And now, so these are the first results that I'd like to share. Out of those 8 standards, we also have analyzed 22 substandards and 36 indicators. And for the numbers that you see here on the screen, these are average values for all the 21 countries who are analyzed in this report. And the total average score is 54% if we are combining all the 8 standards together. So you can clearly see that digital first is the standard that is performing the best. And it's closely followed by innovation in procurement and also fast startup creation. We, however, see that social inclusion and diversity at only 28% definitely needs much more improvements. And innovation and regulation also is an area, especially when it comes to regulatory sandboxes, that needs more attention. And now we can look at the best performing standards in a bit more detail. So, digital first. It was 74%. That's a great result for any of the standards. And you have to remember the 21 countries, that's aggravated the result for 21 countries. This score clearly demonstrates that there have been substantial efforts done by the European Commission as well as national policies. And a couple of things to mention here is a single digital gateway and also the application of digital first when looking at the public authorities and the services available online. Important to mention here also that the investment to digitalize the public services have been quite substantial, with 48 billion euros from RRF alone. There are, however, some areas that still need improvement, and that would be the electronic identification as well as applying once-only principle across the EU. As we are looking at the best, we need to look also at the one that is still struggling the most, and that is the social inclusion and diversity, which only have 28% across all the 21 countries that were surveyed. The primary reason for this result is that we've seen a lot of good programs that are out there focusing on social inclusion. However, there lacked diversity when also looking at unprivileged background founders or employees. So there's a lack of policies that facilitate underprivileged background workers. So this is definitely an area for improvement, not only in a couple of countries, but in the majority of the ones that we have surveyed. And now we are moving back to the top 4 standards. So the best performing standards from the whole report, and with specific benchmarking activities. So when I said in the beginning that we are using this report to benchmark, so this is exactly an example. So we want to list not only the highest performers, but want to specialize exactly why and what are the policies and initiatives that bring them there. So in Estonia and Malta, they both received 100%, so meaning they fully met the digital first requirements. Estonia has the digital first principle usage for e-residency, and as well they have 99% of all governmental services can be done in online manner. So that is probably one of the best practices from digital first that we saw across the countries. Malta, similarly as Estonia, but they have a business first portal where you can apply and create your company online. And that brings us also to the next standard, fast creation, where Malta, because of this portal, also can provide creating a company with only 1 day. So that's one of the best in class examples we've seen out there. And they are doing that also through the Fast Lane service that is specifically dedicated just for startups. In Denmark, one of the best practices we see is that all documents can be also submitted in English, meaning that the startups that are not originated from Denmark, they don't need to go through the translation process. Thus, the scaling is much faster when moving into Denmark from another geography. And also their registration fee to create a company is below 100 euros, which is one of the links that we measure under this standard. Next we have innovation in procurement, and here we are looking at 2 of the best practices. First one is from Luxembourg, where we saw that there were no legal or administrative impediments or barriers for the startups to participate in public procurement processes. And also there are several initiatives to promote open source assets, meaning that the companies or the startups, they can access some of the innovation that is already delivered in the market, thus move faster to their end product as well. In Austria, there are several schemes set out that also award the procedures and actively invite startups to be part of the public procurement. And now if we're looking at the stock options, so even though the average score for this standard is 57, we have 2 countries that are performing and fully meeting the standard, and one of them is Spain. So with 100% performance, and that comes out of the startup law, which ensures that you can provide non-voting shares to your employees. And also you are charged only once. So you're not going to be charged when you acquire the shares, you're only going to be charged when you are selling them. In France, they are similarly to Spain, providing same program, and also there's more flexible and tax efficient programs available. So the main conclusions from the report and from all the study what we've done so far. So we are in Europe are definitely on the right track to create the digital ecosystem. There is clear signs of the right initiatives taking place as well. There is a significant amount of investment being going into digital to build a digital ecosystem. There is still some obstacles when it comes to bureaucracy, and especially when setting up new companies. So in some countries it still takes more than a week, in some even up to a month to create a new entity, and that's definitely one of the barriers we need to break down if we want to make more startups to be scalable faster in Europe as well. There still seems to be limited public and private interactions, so there needs to be more knowledge sharing between the public entities and the private ones. In terms of funding, of course there is private and public funding available, but in Europe what we would need to do here is look at other bigger economies and how they are treating also pension funds. So pension funds being directed into the startup ecosystem is a good example that definitely needs to be brought into Europe as well, and to deploy that as a best practice. With stock options, as you saw in the previous slide, even though we have countries that are performing at 100%, there is still average score of 54% only. So this needs to be addressed, so that there are possibilities for startups to attract talent that really is difficult to do for them otherwise. And so with the 28% score for social inclusion, I don't think it's any secret that the startup ecosystem needs to be more inclusive as it is now, and we need to promote more diversity than what is observed right now in the market. And lastly, the regulatory sandboxes. Yes, there are some countries where we see plenty of sandboxes being deployed. They're still quite limited if you looking at the Europe in general. And with the regulatory sandboxes, what it allows to startups is to test their innovation in a safe manner together with the regulators. So once they go out in the market, the idea is already tested, it can be implemented, and it also potentially can make them easier to attract funding. So all of the standards are important to ensure that the startup ecosystem is healthy, and we can be a good challenger for other startup ecosystems globally. So with this report, what's next? You've seen now the first sneak peek of the data. We are releasing the report on March 4, which is next Monday, so exactly in a week. You can scan the QR code, and I'm just going to leave it up here for a bit, and you will see and be notified when the report itself is ready and you can access it. And with that, I thank you, and please sign up and follow us.